Hey, I'm working through a bit of a quandary here. You see, I'm going on vacation soon, but I only have enough space in my bag to bring one book. I've narrowed the options down to my Junji Ito collection, but I'm having trouble deciding which one to choose. Oh, hey Craig. I'm just asking people which Ito book I should take on vacation. You can flash Morse code with your headlights, but you won't carry more than one book for me. I'm gonna pretend I understood that. Thank you, Craig. If you're wondering why I've specifically chosen Junji Ito, it's because each of his books is, in essence, a dozen short stories packaged together. This means they're very easy to read in little bursts without having to commit to finishing the whole book. And, since they're all horror stories, each of them comes with distinct memorable imagery. Splatter film, Amigara Fault, Love Sickness, Army of One, Hellstar Remina. Most Junji Ito stories are designed around a definitive climax panel. It's a moment in the story where every plot point comes together as a full-page illustration, like the face reveal of the monster, or the completed mutation of a protagonist. Some of my favorite panels include the woman in distress, the gushy splatter film, Greased, and more. Suspense is a well-understood tool in any thriller. For example, what's in this box of mine? You didn't just think it was a table, did you? No, I've got something hidden underneath this cloth. You'll find out, don't you worry. Eventually. I'll tell you when I feel like it. Isn't that titillating, yet slightly annoying? Wouldn't it be nice if more people provided instant gratification for their suspense? If my box bothers you, then you may like Ito more than you realize. After all, his books are filled top to bottom with rapid-fire page-turning payoffs. At least after the exposition dumps they are. Page 1, my daughter's become a porcelain doll. This kinda womps, but at least she's alive. Page 6, fuck that, let's kill her. Page 1, ribs woman. I wonder what that means. Oh, so it's like a body dysmorphia thing. That makes sense. Nope, okay, let's move on. Page 1, a shit to remember. You know what? 2 examples was probably enough. Imagine dropping your reader in the dead center of a story with no past to pull from and no resolution to build to. One wrong move and you'd be writing yourself in circles. Yet that same structure is exactly what makes most of Ito's work captivating. His writing is self-contained, littering a universe with oddities. Like the woman who tried to immortalize herself in a golden statue, but ended up forever trapped in the unbroken cast mold. Or a string of floating suicides which culminated in a heavenly rainfall of corpses. A burial tradition which led to human souls springing up into scarecrows, leading to some unexpected revelations. Or perhaps the ghostly haunting of a woman and her sickly signature cry, "Awoo." I wish I were making this up. Over time, he would experiment with and refine his storytelling, leaning towards a style that emphasizes human silhouettes with otherworldly qualities, like the slender, gnawing gaze of fashion model, or the muttering, hunched man at the end of Library Vision. From mass hysteria to maternal stalkers, Ito lands on a concept and then monsterizes it. Dead anxiety, peer pressure, the list goes on. Love, sorrow, fear, fate. And he often only needs around 30 pages to do it. For many, it's difficult to narrow down one best story or book to choose, which, you know, is the whole cause of this little conundrum I'm having. What complicates my decision is, well, Junji Ito writes some very, contentious endings. More often than not, he'll throw his hands up and say, then the protagonist died, or the monster disappeared, and suddenly the story's over. Internet goers often argue the merits of this and whether or not it's a lazy approach to wrapping things up. On several such cases of this, I've found my opinion to change over time. Long Dream, ironically enough, is one of those. You're telling me this man was trapped in a never-ending sleep and we only ever get to see the aftermath of it on his body? One can only imagine what sort of world he must have experienced in there. Literally, we're never shown how that side of the story plays out, he just vaguely describes it for a few pages. These mysterious dreams of his remain intentionally undepicted. After all, what would infinite time look like anyways? At what point do you simply detach, dissolve, and come to fear waking up more than staying asleep? When the city of Kadath presents itself, what's a man to do other than honk shoe me? It's still one of my favorite stories, especially the ending, a real showstopper of ethical malpractice, a real head-scratcher of subjectivity. I could tell you what happens next, but I'd rather let you flip that page yourself. Even if I did, would you believe me if I explained it? I think most of his books are like that. You're left wondering about much of the details, but you don't feel like anything needed to be changed either. Each story just works on its own. What's really interesting to me though is when Ito weaves multiple stories into one anthology. Gyo, Love Sickness, Tomi. Sometimes the events of each chapter are tightly connected, like the foggy streets of Love Sickness. Other times the chapters are, at best, loosely connected by a location or character, yet otherwise remain totally self-contained, as they are in Uzumaki. His climaxes don't typically thread a dozen plot points together. The big bad is far simpler than that. Nonetheless, these worlds are still filled with dozens of detours. Smaller stories that don't exactly build onto the plot, but arguably still bring some more context to the world itself. Creating stakes in a world of power creep is difficult, but Ito finds himself with the opposite issue. With characters so powerless in the face of demise, how do you reassure your readers that a silver lining exists? That is, if one even does. Sometimes evading death is all you can ask for. Sometimes all you can do is learn from the mistakes of others. Sometimes all you can do is live to tell the tale. You've been so patient with me, dear viewer. I can feel your eyes burning into the side of my box. Surely an answer to all your wonders will come. But not yet. Junji Ito's best ideas come from everyday observations, greasy futons, travel stories, but this picture specifically, this comes from a dream Ito had when he was 5 years old. He dreamt of a clay woman flying through the air to come hang him alive. This memory inspired one of his most well-known works, Hanging Blimp. It's a masterclass in thriller. The balloons wander into town, sweeping people up, yet they can't be safely destroyed or captured. No one knows much about what they are, just that they share an uncanny resemblance to their target. With Ito, it's imagery first, answers second. And hell, you're lucky to walk away with that much half the time. We're given a sort of inciting incident to the balloons, I guess, but it's not much to go off of. As for the ending, well, would you believe me if I explained it? In these crazy worlds, people can be turned into marionettes, but you won't be told how it happened either. They're walking, dangling metaphors, rich with symbolism. In Children of the Earth, a bunch of kindergartners get eaten by the ground. Like the Earth eats children in this story. Settle down, box. When writing Gyo, Ito once said, "Sharks are scary. If they came onto land, they would be very scary. Not as scary as dolphins. They do drugs." But yeah, Ito will write about anything as long as it sounds cool. It doesn't have to make sense. Like the allure of a ghostly flash flood mystery, or a woman with a kink for being dissected. Some people are practically begging to be swept up by intrusive thoughts. L'appel du vide, as they say, or as the French would put it, oh wow, we used it correctly that time. Junji Ito rarely writes a heroic triumph. His characters are more like metaphorical drug addicts. Usually metaphorical anyways. You aren't reading with a hope they'll be rescued. You're watching their metamorphosis from human to no longer human. That's because Ito lets the end write itself. He doesn't force a conclusion. He doesn't make sure the good guy wins. He keeps it interesting yet realistic. Anytime the world's being destroyed, well, let's just say Superman never shows up to stop it. The purpose of these stories isn't to wrap up every loose end. It's to show us a reality where some ends get tightened up while others don't. These stories are a commentary on human destruction. The many ways we watch our loved ones destroy themselves or be destroyed by others. The ways we see tribalism snowball into occultism. And sometimes the ways nature can be impassively cruel to us. Ito always leaves you wanting more, sometimes a little too much more. But in horror fiction, maybe that's a strength. His books might seem like senseless gore, but under each wailing face is a soul done in by their vices. Behind the pupils of each survivor is a list of loved ones they've lost along the way. And rest assured, behind every last panel of a page, every suspensefully creased corner you turn, there is an image that's been visually designed to answer your most immediate questions with yet another question. It's the ultimate fusion of beauty and terror from an author that's been mastering his craft for the better part of 30 years. A creator that finds inspiration across every aspect of his life and weaves it into a cautionary tale. A writer who, despite the nihilistic grit of his work, still finds humor in the strangest of places. And an artist who draws beautiful women in hyper-realistic teeth with unimaginable ease. Like an undying lover, these books are easy to pick up but hard to put down. By the end, the monster is still breathing, still unexplained. Meanwhile, who knows how many people have been murdered, or traumatized, or somehow both. His endings trail off like an uncorroborated Bigfoot sighting. You know the story continues long after the final page, yet this narrow encounter is all we have to go off of. If I had to pick one book based solely off of that knowledge, well, sometimes the best solution is the obvious one. I'm officially ready for my vacation. I already told you where we're going, Craig. Besides, we aren't leaving for another year minimum. I just like to be prepared. I'm assuming you just said box. You're curious what's inside of it, huh? Well, I guess I could tell you what's inside. But even if I did, would you believe me? If I had to pick an Don't knock it over! Okay, it was Occam's razor. You happy? Occam's razor was in the box. And you know I'd stall it